Donald Trump believed the Epstein story was behind him. He believed that if he ignored it long enough, if the Department of Justice continued to delay document releases, and if Congress was met with silence and procedural roadblocks, public attention would eventually drift elsewhere. Another controversy, another distraction, another headline to bury what he needed buried. That strategy depended on one thing: time. But what just happened has completely upended that plan. Before we go any further, let me ask you this. How do you interpret Trump's continued refusal to fully cooperate with the Epstein investigation? Do you see it as incompetence, political calculation, or something more deliberate? Because recent events suggest this is no longer just about delay or bureaucracy. This is about exposure. For months, the Epstein investigation lingered in the background of American politics. It never disappeared, but it wasn't dominating headlines either. That changed the moment former President Bill Clinton refused to comply with a congressional subpoena. The House Oversight Committee has been investigating Jeffrey Epstein's network of powerful associates for months. Their focus is straightforward. Who knew what, who participated, who enabled, and who protected whom. Clinton's name has appeared for years in flight logs, witness accounts, and investigative reporting. His testimony was not unexpected. It was inevitable. The committee subpoenaed Clinton for a closed-door deposition, and Clinton did not show up. House Oversight Chairman James Comer then stepped before cameras and announced that the committee would move forward with contempt proceedings. Clinton, he said, ignored a lawful subpoena and refused to answer questions about his relationship with a convicted sex trafficker. A vote to hold him in contempt is now expected. At first glance, this might appear politically advantageous for Donald Trump. Clinton's refusal creates an appearance of guilt and hands Republicans an easy talking point against Democrats. But in reality, this development is a worst-case scenario for Trump, because Clinton's refusal has reignited the Epstein story at full intensity. And once that story resurfaces, the questions do not stop with Bill Clinton. They move directly to Donald Trump. Clinton's decision to risk contempt charges sends a clear signal. There are answers he does not want to give under oath. People do not defy Congress lightly. They do it when the alternative carries serious legal or political consequences. And if that logic applies to Clinton, it applies equally, if not more so, to Trump. Trump signed the Epstein Transparency Act. He publicly promised full disclosure. He claimed the American people would see everything. Yet months later, the Department of Justice has released roughly 12,000 documents out of an estimated 2 million, less than 1%. The administration claims hundreds of lawyers have been reviewing the materials. It claims the process is ongoing, but Congress, the media, and increasingly Trump's own party are asking the same question. Why is nearly everything still hidden? This is no longer a partisan issue. Republican lawmakers like Thomas Massie have openly warned that violations of the transparency law do not expire with a congressional session. That future administrations could still pursue accountability. That obstruction has consequences. Even figures once firmly aligned with Trump are now pressuring the administration over the Epstein files. And perhaps most importantly, Trump's own base, long consumed by Epstein-related conspiracies, is beginning to ask why their president is protecting secrecy instead of exposing it. As Clinton's contempt proceedings move forward, reporters have begun asking the obvious follow-up. If Clinton must testify, why hasn't Trump? The response from congressional leadership has been evasive. Trump, they say, has answered many questions publicly. But there is a crucial distinction here. Trump has not testified under oath. He has not submitted to a deposition. He has not placed himself in a position where false statements carry legal consequences. Press remarks are not testimony. Casual denials are not accountability. If the Epstein investigation is serious, if Congress truly believes associates must be questioned under oath, then exempting Trump because he is president undermines the entire premise of the inquiry. And the timing could not be worse for him. The Department of Justice has now acknowledged that it has released only a fraction of the Epstein documents, despite previously claiming its review was complete. That admission has prompted bipartisan calls for an external audit of the review process. Lawmakers want to know what is taking so long. Democratic senators have also focused attention on Trump's chief of staff, who publicly stated she had seen the files and that Trump appeared in them, but did nothing wrong. If that is true, then the refusal to release the documents only fuels speculation, because if there is nothing damaging, transparency would end the story. The reality is becoming harder to ignore. Trump promised transparency. He signed a law requiring disclosure, and now his administration is effectively violating that law. This is no longer just a political scandal, it is a legal one. Consider Trump's reaction when confronted publicly. At a Ford plant, a worker accused him directly of protecting pedophiles. Trump lost his composure, responded angrily, and lashed out. That is not the reaction of someone confident that the truth will clear his name. It is the reaction of someone who fears what the truth might reveal. Trump's entire strategy relied on public fatigue, but Clinton's refusal to testify has guaranteed the opposite. Every contempt vote, every hearing, every subpoena keeps Epstein in the headlines, and with every headline, pressure builds on Trump to explain why he remains shielded. If Clinton ultimately decides that testifying is less damaging than contempt prosecution, the consequences could be enormous. Testimony leads to follow-up questions. Follow-up questions lead to new witnesses. New witnesses lead to documents. And once that process begins, it is not something Trump can control. Right now, Trump has no good options. If he releases the files, he risks exposure. If he continues stonewalling, the obstruction becomes the scandal. If he attacks Clinton, attention turns back to his own silence. If he stays quiet, the story grows without his narrative. All of this is unfolding as Trump faces repeated legal defeats in federal court. Judges are blocking his policies, rejecting his arguments, and reinforcing the principle that executive power has limits. That matters, because it signals to Congress that resistance is possible, that accountability mechanisms still function, and that pressure, if sustained, can force disclosure. The underlying question now dominates everything. What is in those files that makes all of this worth it? 2 million documents is not a normal number. It suggests a vast operation involving powerful individuals over many years. Keeping 99% of that material secret does not signal caution, it signals fear. And that is why Clinton's refusal to testify is so damaging to Trump. Not because of what Clinton has said, but because of what his silence has reopened. The Epstein story is back. The investigations are back. The questions are back. And this time, they are not going away. If you want to stay ahead of these developments and understand what's really happening beneath the headlines, make sure you subscribe. Because this story is far from over, and the next chapters may be even more consequential than the last.